Robbie, what's going on, man? Kentucky.
Woo! How are you?
Good. I'm so glad you're here. Take a moment and let everybody know who you're from, what you do, or who you are, where you're from, and what you do creatively.
I'm a mixed media artist from LaGrange, Kentucky. It's a little town about 30 miles outside of Louisville. I am mostly categorized as a folk artist. I do a lot of sculptural form. I work in 3D. I work in 2D. I work in a lot of materials. I do paper mache. I use wood. I use found objects. So I kind of have gotten the reputation as a visual storyteller. I like to hear stories. I like to tell my story. And then what I love most about what I do is when I have the occasion for somebody to connect with a piece of my work and I get to hear their story as it relates to what I do.
I love that.
So gratifying.
I love that. Now, I bet you know where Campbellsville, Kentucky is. Do you know where
I do.
I've been there quite a few times. I got a number of friends that pastor the Vineyard Church there in Campbellsville. Yes. Wow, that's a great place. It's coming up. A lot of great artists there too.
My son went to Lindsey Wilson, which is about 10 miles outside of Campbellsville.
My goodness. Well, listen, I remember, just as an aside, I remember when we had to drive over there the first time to go to a conference I was speaking at, and we came from Asheville and then got up into Kentucky, and I was looking for a Starbucks, and it was like 300 miles to the nearest Starbucks coming through East Kentucky. I was like, where are we? Like, what are we doing? It's a beautiful country. So have you been doing your art your whole life, or is this a new thing, or what's your journey look like?
No, I had a totally different career. I was a middle school science teacher.
Wow.
Most of the time, I taught for 28 years. Most of the time was in 6th and 7th grade science. But I've always been a creative. I learned best by doing, and I knew that about myself, so I was always doing hands-on types of things, sketching, building furniture, anything that I could, build up, take apart, and kind of experiment with. I was a high school basketball coach, and so while I was in that part of my career, I really didn't have a chance to do too much creating. It wasn't until I retired that I knew I wanted to do something with a creative outlet. Part of what I did for a while was landscape. I love landscaping. And so I was using my art talents to do designs of landscapes.
Wow.
And
you and I found out quickly. You know how I love gardening.
I do. Yeah. But I quickly found out that landscaping was a young man's sport. And I didn't, foresee myself doing that for a long time. So, but I always wanted to try a business. My dad was a businessman, sold hardware and building supplies. And I never had that experience, so I wanted to try it. So when I first retired from teaching, I was actually building American farmhouse style furniture, and I was selling it at shows. And so I started building these, I was calling them accessories. Okay. And I was using them to set up little vignettes where I was trying to sell my work. Right. And these people came in and started wanting to buy them. And I said, are you talking about the table? He said, no, I'm talking about that. And, I was puzzled, couldn't imagine why anybody would want to buy it. And long story short, after about 3 shows, one of my friends that was the art teacher at the school where I taught came to me and said, I want to see these accessories. And so he came to my studio and he said, what are you thinking? He said, these aren't accessories. These are 3D sculptural art. No wonder people want to buy them. So that kind of transitioned me from hauling big furniture around to doing my art, which I immediately found extreme joy from.
Awesome. awesome.
became very passionate about, that form of creating. And I've been doing that since. Early on, I was fortunate to be discovered at Morehead State University. There was a folk art show up there that saw my work somewhere and invited me. And from that point on, I've been doing my art full time.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about, before we talk about your experience in Creative to Thrive, one of the things you'll note this that I try to teach people is that a creative business looks different depending on the season of life that you're in. So
Correct.
like for me, the last 10 years, I'm in kind of middle age, raising Cameron at home and Tanya's working and we're in our 30s, 40s, whatever. So my business and the pace of business and the amount of money that I'm trying to make looks different than somebody maybe just starting out or just kind of at the end of a career. Like you're saying, you're retired and now you're doing this separately.
Right.
How has that kind of understanding changed for you over the years? And what's kind of your sweet spot now as far as the rhythm that you're finding as a person that's retired from a career?
Well, when I first started and got involved in your experience course that I did 2 years ago, I guess it was, I knew there was a void for me. I've been a believer, but I wasn't living a kingdom life, and I quickly picked up on that from you and your teachings, and so I really kind of immersed myself in that portion, but I didn't do much with the community, and I didn't get really involved. And what I found was, as I got to some scary places, I started questioning myself and started believing all those lies.
Yeah.
And so I kind of backed off a little bit. I took the year, and then the following year, when you offered it to us free to be a part of the program again, I just had a different feeling about it, and I knew in my heart of hearts that it was my time.
Wow.
And that I could do with it what I chose to do. God, I understood, wanted me to be a creative. I was heavily influenced when I first heard you on a podcast. Probably the second one I listened to was with Alan Arnold.
Oh, yeah.
And he talked about the story of With.
Yeah.
That had a huge impact on me.
Mm.
And I understood that I didn't have to create for anybody else to be validated in what I was doing. I just had to be joyful in creating. And I couldn't figure out why I was enjoying it so much. Well, it was because that's what God wanted me to do.
That's right.
And so I just started pouring my heart into it. I decided I'm a relative newbie in the program. I just came in this past July, but learned so much, met some incredible people via the community, which I had overlooked when I did the experience course.
Yeah.
And it's been a real difference maker for me. They've poured into me, and I've felt really good about people that I've met. And now I'm starting, even as new as I am in the program, I'm already seeing opportunity for me to connect with some of the new people coming in, and conversations that led me to a place.
That's so cool. It's amazing how, like you said, there can be an opportunity, but whatever place you're at in your own head or in your own life, you don't see it. And then when you're ready, you kind of know.
Yeah.
And, I know, Robbie, there are probably people like that sitting out there right now. They're like, maybe this is the first time, second time, third time they've seen this opportunity go by, and they're thinking, is this my time? What would you say to those folks that are considering becoming a part of our community and Creative to Thrive?
Well, I guess I'm heading into my Medicare phase of life. I turned 65 this year, and I'm not for sure where I want to go business-wise. I know I want to keep creating. I'm fortunate to be selling. The biggest portion of my sales come through commissions. I know, like yourself, that's something that you really value, and so do I. I'm just really at this point trying to figure out what it is I want to do with the business end of it, and be able to, to determine where I can go. What I've learned through the program is that I can go anywhere that God wants to take me if I follow His lead.
That's right.
It's been really eye-opening to me. I never understood what you meant by living in fullness, and that is starting to happen for me. My sales, like Tammy was talking about during this past COVID year, have been consistent. I've had more commissions than I've had in the last 2 years, and they're still coming. And I'm hopeful to get back to a place where I can teach some of my classes again that I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So for me, if I was to encourage somebody, it would be, don't worry about your age. Don't even necessarily worry about your skill level. Worry about, are you creating because it's something that you have a joy and a passion for?
Yeah, that's so good.
And, yeah. So
that's so good, Robbie. I'm so encouraged to hear your story and hear the things that God's doing in your heart. And
thanks.
I tell people all the time, these calls that we do like this, and you can verify, we don't pre-plan these. We're not like, you say this and I'll say that. I mean, this is completely unscripted, but I love the fact, like you and Tammy both, is like COVID schmovid, God's providing right in the middle of that. And there's a solidness to my life and to my business. And thanks, man, so much for being on today and sharing your stories.
Thanks for having me, and I look forward to meeting some of the other newbies.
Absolutely.
So, thanks.
All right, see you soon, man. Bye.